Trump might be about to hurt your Etsy shop. Wait, what? This is not a political video. I'm not bashing anyone's president. Just wait with me while I explain. Have you seen the articles and news reports saying that the US is about to clamp down on free shipping from China? I mean, I'm sure most of us have actually seen this ourselves. It's cheaper a lot of the time to get a package sent all the way from China than it is from the other side of our city. And it makes it harder to compete. And when we hear that it's us, well, our governments that are subsidising this free shipping to China, well, that's not fair, is it? We totally need to stop that. I'm totally with America on that. Or is there more to the story? To explain this, I have to take you back over 150 years. In the past, if you wanted to send a letter somewhere in the world, you had to figure out all the countries that letter was going to pass through on its way to its destination country, and then figure out the shipping through each individual country and purchase a stamp from that individual country to pay for each country you were going through. So a letter from your country to somewhere the other side of the world might have many different stamps on it. Can you imagine that as an international Etsy seller, having to figure out the route that your letter or your package was going to take to get to where you wanted to send it? So around 150 years ago, the UPU, or the Universal Postal Union, was created. And its goal was to make postage work everywhere. To reach this goal, the national mail carrier for each country had to be decided upon. So that's the Royal Mail in the UK and UPSP in America and others in other countries. And each of these mail carriers is responsible for the mail when it comes into their country, regardless of where it came from. It's responsible for getting the parcel to the destination in their own country. So if a parcel is shipped from Australia and another one from Kenya, they are both the responsibility of the Royal Mail once they reach the UK. The UPU set up this mighty infrastructure and set the prices and made sure that the individual governments pay each other for the service that's being provided. But obviously the world is not a fair place. Some countries are poorer and something like this would be out of their reach. And quite simply, this grand plan, this massive infrastructure requires every single step, requires the entire world to be on board. If one leg is broken, then the system can't work. The parcel can't get where it needs to go. So the scheme was to be of benefit for all of us. We could send a letter or a parcel to people anywhere in the world. So it made sense for the more affluent countries to pay a bit more for these developed countries because it was going to help us substantially more. So countries were categorised, and countries that fell into what was considered developing countries were given a little bit extra help from the developed countries, from the countries with more money. Except as China was designated a developing country, this means sellers in China have a massive advantage over us because they can ship pretty much free anywhere in the world. And as China has grown so much in recent times, is China even considered a developing country anymore? So this is what the US wants to change, as do other countries. But this is where it gets interesting. The US is threatening to pull out of the UPU if China isn't recategorised as not a developing country anymore. And when I heard this, on the surface, this just sounded like an issue between the US and China. It doesn't affect the rest of the world, does it? I mean, no one's negotiating strategy would be to threaten to pull out of something that's going to hurt them more than it's going to hurt the people they're threatening. Would they? The feeling I'm getting at the moment was the UPU was always going to work on recategorising China, and China is not going to object to no longer being considered a developing country. But what will happen if America leaves? Then its postal agreements across the entirety of the world are cancelled. It would have to negotiate with every single individual country in the world with what happens with its international mail. And many countries actually in the UPU are making a loss on their international shipping, so there wouldn't be a massive driver for them to negotiate a really competitive deal with the US. This would be tough negotiations. Or people would simply have to rely on couriers to do the entire trip, which, I don't know about other countries, but I can tell you, a courier to America for me is many times more expensive than sending it with the Royal Mail. So much so, I would have to consider not shipping to the US anymore. Now, obviously, we can't say how these potential future negotiations are going to go, but at the very least, it's likely there will be a period of disruption. And this disruption would disproportionately hurt small sellers. You see, large corporations use couriers. They have discounts with these big companies. They don't use the national mail network. It's the small sellers that use the UPU, although you probably hadn't even heard of it. It's the small sellers that are likely to be ordering in smaller volumes of supplies. Anyway, it's all theories just now. My gut feel at the minute is this is not even going to be a problem because the UPU are going to recategorise China. But if it does, it's likely to impact many of us, not just those in America and China. I hope that helps. See you next time.